creation type of a approach. Thank you to the San Diego Comic-Con for having us here. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you all for coming to see the presentation. Again, that's right. So, concept of creation. Anybody here are Star Trek fans? Woo! Yeah. Everybody watching the new, was it Christopher Pike series, The Brave
Strange New World.
Strange New World? How do you like that new enterprise that they created?
I like it.
What? I can't hear anything. It's awesome.
I love
There's
it.
the creator. Johnny.
Downstairs too.
What was that?
They got some beautiful enterprise models downstairs.
Oh, I haven't seen them yet.
Amazing.
All right, we definitely going to check that out.
Probably one of your designs down there.
So, do we have Photoshop fans, the Adobe fans? All right, so we have Nikolai from Adobe. He's the lead 3D engineer. And I'm Stephen Burns. I'm an author and 3D artist, and I'm going to be showing you some of the modeling techniques inside of Blender. We're going to focus on kind of designing, concepts like paneling and also etchings on starships and interiors and so forth. And we're going to, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to start from like a concept of creation type of workflow. John Eads gave me the concept. So he's a Photoshop guy. His work looks like it was done in 3D, but it's not. He does it all in Photoshop. I am on him right now because I'm going to get him into Blender, and he's going to learn Blender. And it's hard for him to learn Blender because he's so good at Photoshop. I don't know, am I right about that, John?
It's more like stupid, but I can't figure it out. But no, it's very intimidating. But Steve here is a pretty fabulous teacher. I met him at Wonderfest. It's just a model making convention in Kentucky last year, and he did like a 6 to 8 hour beginning course. It was pretty fantastic. Except lunchtime, I forgot what I learned earlier. But it's an amazing tool, and these two guys, as you'll see in the next 45, 50 minutes, pretty amazing what they can do.
All right, and then Nikolai, share with your experience with Adobe and.
My name is Nikolai. I am a software developer at Adobe. I'm not an artist, so what you will see today is going to be a lot of engineering art, which means like a software engineer picks up a brush and tries to scribble things. I did work on Photoshop 3D for some time, and now I work on Substance Suite apps, which are basically Adobe's part of Adobe 3D tools. So I've been at Adobe for 15 years, and but once in a while, roughly once or twice a year, they do let me out of the basement. So.
Okay, all right, so from concept to creation. Here is some drawings that John has given me. So these are drawings for the new shuttle, for the new series. And he's given me like a bunch of different versions, actually. But I kind of threw them all together and put my own 2 cents in there and designed this out all inside of Blender. So I did this, and it's not even completed yet, but I'm going to kind of break it down for you some of the workflow. Let me ask you guys this. How many people have no experience in Blender? Raise your hand. None. How many people have a little bit experience? Let me see your hands. Okay, and a lot of experience in Blender? About 2 hands, 3 hands, maybe? Okay, good. Okay, we're gonna have some fun. Now stop me anytime and ask questions so we get a little bit of a dialogue here. So I teach.
Actually, I have one question I have specifically about this. So which images is it from?
All right, so I tell you what, I think I have it here. And hold on a second, I'll open up Bridge for you real quick. I like to use Adobe Bridge to preview all of my work. And his question is, which images did he give to me? Let's get Bridge to boot up a little bit. So I utilize Bridge to preview everything, all And let's go see if I can find these guys. And if I remember correctly, it should be under bios. So I think it's under bios, reference images. You know what? I may not have it now, gosh. Oh, here we go. So here's some of the new enterprise that we were talking about that, John. Now, this is done in Photoshop. It looks like it's 3D, but it's not. Right? Looks like it's 3D, but it's not. But this is the concept work done for the new series. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And what I'm going to do is I have placed it on another drive, so when you do your presentation, I'll go get that and show everybody what it gave me. You're gonna run my workflow here. So. Okay, so let's go back into Blender. And you kind of share with me. I'm in what's called a materials mode right now. There's several different modes you'll be working with in Blender. It's going to be your standard shading mode, which is what you're going to be doing all your modeling in. You've got your materials mode to do your material. That's not much of a material on here, just a little bit of like texturing to kind of give it almost like a machine wash look, metal look. And then you have your render mode, okay? I'm not going to go in, I tell you what I will. I'll go into, hold the Z key down. The Z key gives me the shortcut for your various rendering modes. I'm in material mode. If I go to solid mode, this is the mode I will be working in. And then there is the render mode, which I put a star field right back here in the back and kind of simulate the ship in space. Of course, the render mode is showing all the beautiful lighting that I put on there as well. Now, it also shows the body, see the etch lines in here? You see the paneling on here along with the etch lines? That's what you're going to learn tonight, how to do tonight. And now, when I was first starting Blender, it took me forever to figure out, how the hell do this paneling, how do I get the lines exactly the way I want it? I found I found a sweet little way I think you guys are going to love. So let's get out of here. Z key, hold it down, go to my solid view, and let's start breaking this down and kind of show you my workflow here. A top view, a side view of my ship, just as a reference, right? If I want an X-ray view of the model, hit the Alt or Option Z key, goes to X-ray view so I can see through my model to my images behind it. That's a nice little workflow. Alt or Option Z again to bring it back to standard shading view. All right, now, everybody works in Photoshop. That means you work in layers, right? Layers are all right here. Now I've got them organized in the cells. Watch. Tell you what, let's go to the images. Like at the top and side, I'm going to turn them off just so that they're not visually in our way anymore. And then I'm going to go to the body bottom. I tell you what, let me find the cells and turn them off. Right? It's supposed to turn off on me if it were through the cells. Oh, I see. That's the whole body there. Okay, so that's the bottom half. Okay? And this is the top half. I'm going to select this one right up here for the top half. And it's the body top, I believe. There we go. So when I turn off the top, you can see the interior that, again, this is not finished, but I just started to kind of design. And Nikolai is going to bring it into Substance Painter and show you how to detail into that program to kind of give this some life. So it's going to be kind of a fun little workflow. All right, so there's my top, and there's the bottom. Now, I like to break it up so that the panels are on their separate layers. But what I've done is just for ease, just for practicality, I merged everything together. So you can see all the paneling merged in with the top of the body. All right, let me go to another model. I'm going to go over here, go to my recent model, and I've got one called Blank Canvas. All right, so Blank Canvas ship.blend. I'm not going to save that one. And we're going to start from scratch. There we go. So this is a scratch, pretty much of a naked surface. And the way I have Blender set up is to preview the surfaces in different colors. What that means is that each one of these is a separate 3D object on their own layer. See, my nacelles are separate from the top, separate from the body. So if I come here and go to my shuttle top, turn it off, turn it on. There's no interior in here because I want this particular model to show you how to actually do the paneling techniques. And of course, we can see here I've got my bottom, okay, or here we go. That's my nacelles at the bottom there. Okay, now let's go have some fun. Let me start with a simple model to show you how I'm going to start with the etching or the grouting type of a technique. Anytime you want to bring in a 3D object into Blender, it always puts it at the 3D cursor. That white and red circle is a 3D cursor. To get any 3D object into Blender is only one shortcut, Shift A. Shift A, Mesh is where all your primitives live, right under the mesh, very top. We have other 3D objects here and capabilities. We're interested in Mesh. Let's go over here to the cube, and oh, it made a cube, all right? Now, what I'm going to do is this particular mode here is showing different colors on every object. The way to get out of it or to apply it is right up here. Now, these are your viewing modes. This little symbol there is saying I'm showing this currently in the standard shading mode. If I go here, I'm seeing it in the materials mode. That's the long way of doing it. So I'm gonna go back to the standard shading mode, drop down over here. Let's see, go with my options, right? Let me get out of here and go back to get out of that Z key, go back to solid mode. There we go. All right, now if I drop this down, there's an option button called random. I'm going to go to object, which means it's going to make everything gray. It'll make it a little simpler to see. Now, select on it. I'm in object mode currently. That means I can animate that object. If I want to edit the object to create something different, tab key, go to edit mode, object mode. And you have various other modes. Sculpting mode, weight paint. This is for texture painting. You want to paint on it. I'm interested in the edit mode. There it is. That means if I hit the number 1 key, points, number 2 key, edges, number 3 key is faces. So I'm going to select the face, pull it on out just a little bit right about there. Okay? And then I'm going to extrude from this. The first letter of extrude is E. E there, extrude right about like that. Okay? I'm not going to make this a complicated model. I'm just going to do a simple little shape. So I'm going to come over to the side. I will go to the X-ray mode, and then I'm going to hit the number 2 key for my edge selection mode. If I draw a rectangle this way, my 4 edges are selected. I'm going to do the same. Actually, before I do the edges, let me hit number 3 key, go back to the face editing mode, S for scale, bring it on down, and make like the nose of a ship or something. Now I'm going to come back, and I'm going to grab these that actually go to the 2 key, grab those 4 edges, shift, and grab those 4 edges. Now, if you guys have questions, stop me and ask anytime. All right, so I'm going to come here, go to my scale option. I can do it here too. Move, rotate, scale, and I can just move it out like this, just a little bit, okay? And I think what I'll do is come over, and I'm going to hit Control B, which means bevel. I don't know, bevel it out like this, something like this. All right, now I'm going to do something else as well. I'm going to go back, get out of this X-ray mode. I'm going to go to the faces very quickly. You're going to see why. Number 3 key, grab that face, let's turn around, let's grab it back real quick. And I'm selecting it. I want to tell Blender to delete those faces. I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. X key for delete. Delete what? It's giving me a choice. Vertice, edge of faces, go get the faces are gone. I'm going to slice this in half. This is all going to make sense. Control R. You're going to use this technique for the rest of your modeling career. Control R is slice. Wherever I place the cursor, it makes a perpendicular slice. Click once and then click again, creates the slice. Do it one more time on the bottom. Control R. Oops, that was an accident. I'm going to unstop it and then Control Z to undo. Control R once again. Left click, click again. Okay, done. I'm gonna keep that one selected, hold the shift key, double click on this one to get, oops, wrong one. Double click right about there, there we go. So we got both slices selected. I don't want that one going across horizontally. So control, drag, deselect. Now, I want to split this in half. I only want to work on half, and I want to work on the whole model. So with those two selected, the V key on the keyboard, I'm going to click it, it means it's going to separate it. Now if I right click, it'll reset it back in space. Okay, now we're ready to go. I don't need this other half. To select all connected polygons, the shortcut is L on the keyboard. Let your mouse hover over that half, hit the L key, it will select that half. Now, delete. What's the shortcut for deleting? Yes?
What is the V key, like the shortcut?
The V key is basically, it's separating that edge from the rest of the model. So it's slicing it. So now I'm able to select half of it, hit the X key, delete those faces. Okay?
You took the faces off the front and back so it'd be easier to slice?
Exactly. Exactly correct. And for this example, I don't really need those front faces. All right, here we go. So now I'm going to select those edges one more time because I want them completely flush with one another. I want them flush going down the Z-axis. The way to ensure that is S key for scale. The Z key means, actually the X key means restricted to the X-axis only. 0 key means completely flatten it out. Watch it. Okay, so it worked. It was already flat to begin with. Now I'm going to do something else. I want to put the 3D cursor exactly dead center where these slices are. Because I want to mirror this and let Blender create that, bring the shape back, but using a modifier. We're going to talk about modifiers in just a little bit. So, Shift S, cursor to selected. Good. Now let's get out of edit mode. We're done editing, or almost done editing. Tab key, object mode. Okay, there's my object. What do I want to do? I want that my center point of this model to be where that 3D cursor is. Really easy. Right click, set the origin to what? The 3D cursor. Boom, there it is. Now what does that mean for you as an artist? That means we can come over here and add a modifier. So Blender is one of the very few 100% non-destructive 3D programs out there. It's absolutely fabulous. Blender has revolutionized the 3D industry. So the Maya people are now dropping Maya and coming over to Blender. All right, so I'm gonna come over here to this little blue wrench right there, add the modifier. What modifier? Mirror. Mirror what? Look, X-axis right there, it mirrored it perfect. Now, why did we do that? Watch. Okay, so let's go inside, go back to edit. I'm going to select all. I'm hitting the 3 key for face selection mode. A key means select everything in there, right? I want to subdivide. Right click, subdivide. It starts subdividing a little bit. You're going to see why I'm doing this in just a minute. I'm going to do, now right down here is my options for my subdivision. It's only one subdivision. Click to go to second, and then more, and more, and more, and more. Maybe we'll go one more like that, okay? All right, so a little bit much of it doesn't matter. Now, we're going to add more modifiers, because we're going to make the grout now. This is going to be interesting, so watch this. Tab key, object mode, we're going to add a few more modifiers. These 3 modifiers is going to be the key to adding grout. And from this point on, once you have those 3 modifiers, you can just draw your grouting exactly where you want it to be. So, my first modifier is going to generate edge split. The next modifier, you're going to go grab another, is going to be solidify. I'm going to bring it right down here. There we go. So go to solidify. I'm going to cascade that up so we can see them all together. And your final modifier is going to be bevel. There it is. I'm gonna put mirror at the bottom because your positioning your modifiers make a difference. So I'm gonna drag it, just like layers in Photoshop, drag it to the bottom. Now, watch what I'm gonna do. Go back and edit. So tab key, go to my edit mode, hit the number 2 key.
Do the modifiers apply themselves from top to bottom? So like it would for the
Excellent observation.
and then, okay.
Yes. Apply they're from top to bottom. And watch what's going to happen. I'm in edge editing mode. So let's see. Let's make some grout. So I'm going to deselect all those edges, grab that edge. And I think I'll come up here and see if I can get this to work here. Grab that one. We'll just go ahead and select all these up here. Get in close. Bring that to there. There. All right. And we'll come around and do something like that to there. What was that? Next question. They gotta get in closer, so we're on the laptop, so get rid of that one, and I'm gonna bring this on down. And keep track of my time. All right, I'm gonna bring this around this way, here, oops, sorry. And I'm gonna go bring it one more time and just bring it around. So there is one shape, okay? We've got a shape right there. Now, what I'm gonna do next is right click and hit this thing called Mark Sharp. Click it, look what happens. It goes blue, but the way why we mirrored it is that now we can see the results as it should be seen on the other side. All right? So if I turn this around, I'm gonna add one little extra adjustment is I'm gonna go over here to the bevel. And I have segments here. Because I want this to be a lot cleaner looking in terms of a grout. All right, so I'm gonna say the segments, I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. I notice that 6 sometimes looks kind of nice. And look at that. Nice, clean edge. Is that making sense? So now that means you can utilize your edges and you can start drawing your grouting, right? So if I come here, now normally the shortcut is hit the angle right here, shift and control held down, and I can click in between. I should be able to click this other edge there, but it's giving me a little bit of a hard time, so I'm gonna just hold the shift key down and start to add different shapes coming across very quickly. And I'm just going to do a couple of these, and I'm going to start laying down paneling. And then what do I do next? Yes?
I think it's right click or something
Excellent.
and make it mark sharp.
Mark Sharp. Boom. And you see this workflow shows you instantly what you're going to be getting when you render it. And yes, you can 3D print this.
Mark sharp.
Right? So you can use this for CG or you can 3D print it. So these modifiers, let's do this. Let's do one more. I'm going to show you, say for example, you did something like, let's grab, one here, one there, here, and then you came across and you did a mark sharp, but you decided, I don't want that, right? Then easy to do. Just use left click and drag over all those edges, right click, clear, sharp. Boom, now it's gone. It's non-destructive, totally. Does that make sense? You mean like, what's that mean? What?
I don't know.
You don't know if it makes sense? Oh my gosh, it was a great mind class. Oh, I'll take care of it. Yes.
So are the modifiers actually changing the geometry of your shape?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's actually changing the geometry. The question is, are the modifiers actually changing that geometry? It's exactly what it's doing.
Like it's creating extra.
It's creating extra bevels and faces and look, it's taking the edge split means split that right? The VT to split the edge. That's what edge split is doing. Solidify means make it a little thicker, because it's just a single thin face. And then bevel means bevel those edges. So that's what it's doing. But it's non-destructive, so I can turn it off. I can turn off this, hit that little monitor symbol there, click it, click it, click it. I can turn them off. It's all non-destructive. Or I can bring it back on again.
But it's adding geometry, like if you're doing a 3D model, it's adding.
That's right. It's adding geometry in your RAM. Remember, it's not fixed yet. If you want to fix it and make it solid, real geometry that you can put in a 3D printer and 3D print, then you hit apply all. And that will make it real geometry. Okay, is that making sense?
That makes sense.
All right, now I'm going to show you, I'm going to take a few minutes and show you how I do the panel. All right, which you're going to love. And then I'm going to let Nikolai take over and share with you what you can do when you bring a model like that into Substance Painter and work up the magic onto it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go get out of here, go back to object mode. This is going to be fun. I want paneling on here. Number 1 key gives me front view. Number 3 key on the numeric side of the keyboard gives me the side view. Number 7 key gives me the top view. Let's go to the top view. Let's create a different panel up here. So Shift key, right click. That's a shortcut for bringing my 3D cursor wherever I want it. Shift key, right click, right click, right click. I can go wherever I want it. I want to put it right about, let's do something like right there. I want to put some paneling right inside that grout. Make it look like it's supposed to be there. Shift A, mesh, plane, a single plane. There it is. Let's get inside it. I just take the plane and bring it to the top there a little bit. Bring it back and rotate it. Pull it up right above it. Okay? Now I go back to my number 7 key. Now I'm going to go to Alt-Z to mirror mode. Or not mirror mode, but X-ray mode. Now I will go into tab, edit mode, so I can edit that shape. Shift, I'm going to bring it down a little smaller. You know, it might be easier for me to not go to X-ray mode, just do it this way. All right, so I'm going to put it right down here in the corner, just like so. Grab that edge, pull it on over, like so. Now, I need to add another slice right down here. So, Control R, slice, put it right about there, okay? And I think I might do another. So Control R and one more slice. And then I'm going to grab this edge and I'm going to do something like that. And then I think I'll bring this edge on down. I'm just playing right now. All right, now I'm going to go to my face view. Now I'm going to add more slices to it. Control R, why? Because what if that's going to be curved a little bit or a slight curve? I want to give it enough geometry so it can actually mold to the surface of my ship. So I'm going to just add just a couple of slices. Now, the way this works is if I hit Control R, don't left click. Blender is different than all the other 3D programs. Most 3D programs is a left click and drag to do something. In Blender, it's not. Apply your modifier, and then use your scroll wheel to scroll and add more in there. Done. Now I'm going to go the other way. Control R, and done. And I'm thinking I'm going to add just a couple more here, and then I'm going to be done with it. There, done. So all I'm doing is adding enough points to get that to flow with the surface of the ship. All right, let's get out of here. There's my panel. I want this to be sitting directly on the surface of my ship. Modifier, deform, shrink wrap. Shrink it to what? There's my target, eyedropper, click on this ship, boom. It can be curved, it can be doing whatever you want. It will shrink wrap to that surface. Now, one last modifier. Here, generate. And what I want is something called solidify. We click it. Here are my options for the solidify. Let's get it close, get an angle here. And we're going to just bring it up. See? Right on the surface. Hold the shift key down, I can control that a little bit. And we're going to stop right about there. I think you guys are getting the point. So there are plugins out there that allows you to put a whole bunch of paneling on ships. But I find that when you want to control the design, the flow, and the story of whatever you're building, it's better to kind of build out the geometry and the flow of the geometry yourself, and then honor that flow by putting in the paneling to reflect your particular vision. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
For the grout process,
Yes.
does it have to be a complete shape? Like, does it have to go and reconnect to itself, or can you have just a line of, like, an edge and then throw
They can
it?
go either way.
Okay.
Yes, you can go either way. Yes.
Excuse me, whenever cattle like lift up a little bit from the bigger mesh you used Solidify, but couldn't you also use extrude, just like a little bit and then lower it down?
Suppose you could. That's what solidify is. It's just an extrusion.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And in Blend, you're going to find there's more than one way to do this. Do the same thing. But yeah, you're correct. Yes, right back there.
I'm wondering how you might handle cattle lines for a shape that might not necessarily follow the topology of your model.
Okay, I'll show you that real quick, and then we're going to go over to Nikolai. All right, so you use the slice tool. So if I go inside the ship real quick, edit mode, hit the K key for the slice tool, and you can start to slice stuff however you want.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Nikolai's next. I'm gonna disconnect my laptop.
All right, so in the course of this workflow, Stephen gave me a 3D model, essentially just the geometry that he just created in Blender. And here I have loaded it into Substance Painter. So the app is called Substance Painter. But before we do that, as we move from geometry creation to material creation and painting, let's sort of step back a little bit and think about like what is material, what essentially is material for this workflow. So for 3D rendering workflow, to create 3D assets, whether it's interactive rendering or final rendering, such as like visual effects kind of thing, the material is essentially what material on a surface describes is it describes how the surface reacts to light. So, and by reacting to light, surface produces for our eyes produces different appearances. Now, one of the things that if you're trying to physically model like the details of this process of how the light is reflected and scattered by the surface, it's a very complicated math. And the problem with this particular workflow is like every renderer is going to have a slightly different shader that has this math approximated differently. So that's where the difficulty is for creating a material. If you think about material, you may just think about a texture, like a wallpaper. But it's more than that, because underneath the appearance, there are more properties of the material that basically describe its appearance. So this one other thing that you need to know if you're using different textures. So now we are in material mode, and so we have to provide different texture maps. Now these maps can control base colors, and control the reflectivity of the material and things like that. And you also need to know how these textures, how these 2D images wrap around the geometry. So, but basically, if you do it manually, so if we had to do it manually, Stephen here would have to do this wrapping by himself. It's going to probably take you like at least as much as you could. At least as much time as you spend doing the.
And you're referring to the UV mapping, right?
Yes, I'm referring. Yes, these are called texture coordinates or UV mapping. They have nothing to do with ultraviolet. It's just they're just it's just a convention of how the texture coordinates are called. They're called UVs. And specifically for this model, if you have to, you can always generate it manually. Blender can actually do that. But let me show you specifically for this part of the body of how UV mapping looks like.
Does anybody here not know what UV mapping is? Okay, I see a few hands. If you take an X-Acto knife and you slice the model down and peel off the skin and flatten it out on a flat sheet of paper, you can draw and paint on it to make your design and then re-wrap it back on your model. That wrap process is UV mapping.
Yeah, so one of the clear benefits here of the painter is that it did it for me automatically. It took some time. I didn't show it to you. It took about this model is it's a very high polygon count, so it took about 10 minutes when the model was imported in. But it did so automatically, so you don't have to think about it. So if you care about the appearance, if you care about essentially you care about materials, you don't necessarily care about UV mapping. You can always if you want, let's say, more precision on some regions of the model, more resolution, you can always go back and change your UV mapping change the texture coordinates in programs like Blender. But we are just concerned here with basic appearance. So here so what I'm going to do here we'll just have this. Have a 3D model, and on the left side here we have an asset set. We have a set of materials that are given to us, and they come to you for free when you install 3D Painter. And there is really a bunch of materials, but the thumbnails you see here does not mean that this appearance of the material is fine. So let me show you what I mean here by that. So let's say we are going to just start putting material on the hull, the part that says body, and let me find a material called metal.
And the goal here is to make John Eves happy.
That was why I asked for images initially, because I don't know how the shading is going to be. So this is me just doing engineering art, which means I wrote the program, I know what you can do with it, but as far as the artistic thing goes, I'm just going to throw random stuff at it. So yeah, here let me add the brushed material with a layer stack. And one thing is, again, here the good thing is that you can actually try a lot of materials here. I mean, you saw dozens and dozens on the left side, and I had them. I just picked one. Now every material is actually different. It has some sort of set of common parameters, such as styling, so you can make the whole thing more sort of a detail or less detailed. You see like the artifacts of this texture mapping, and you get it less as you zoom in on the details, but you can always make it sort of like appearing like this. But if you scroll down here and have the material properties, you can have a different, there's a lot of parameters here to play with. There's like a lot of parameters. So for example, here, this particular material is being done with a lot of presets in mind. So you can make something be out of bronze, or make something out of nickel or platinum, or everybody's favorite titanium. So now we've got a ship made of titanium. It may not be airworthy, not just because of regulations, but regulations, Starfleet regulations, physics regulations. But for the sake of this thing, let's just assume that's what you want. The thing is that so you've got these presets, and now you can just go ahead and start playing with these different parameters and seeing how the material reacts to it. I don't know if you can see, but and this is just an example. Like every different materials are going to have a different parameters to them. So essentially, the point that I'm trying to get across here is that Painter is a little bit like Photoshop, but you don't want to Photoshop. You don't want to paint all these separate texture maps in Photoshop, because the governed by a bunch of texture maps. Here we have 4 maps. Some shading model may have different maps. Let's say you're making an asset for something like, into the Spider-Verse or, this kind of a different cartoon, then it's going to have a totally different shading model. This is just an example, but the painter supports these workflows.
So Substance Painter is industry standard now. So as he mentioned, Substance Painter is literally Photoshop for 3D. Its workflow, the layers that you're painting in Photoshop is exactly the same as Substance Painter, which is why Adobe bought this product.
So one thing that you can do, here to the left you see a stack. So this is where it sort of becomes familiar but more complicated. It's a stack, and you can apply different layers to it, and you can apply different filters to it. For example, you can go and see where it's. You've got filters, and one of my the filters that I like to demo is matte finish wrap. So you can go ahead and drag this filter here, and now you've got this kind of a worn out look. And remember, this is yet another modifier. It's all very non-destructive, and there's a bunch of parameters. You can have scale, you can have different random seed, and this is a parameter called scale grunge. I don't even know what it does, but you can tell that you can see, you can play with all these different modifiers, just like you would with Photoshop filters. And this is again very non-destructive. One thing that you can always do is, if you're done abusing the ship, you just can turn it off, and now it's back to its original form.
It's fabulous.
Very.
And it's easy to overdo it, isn't it?
It's very easy to overdo.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things that I've tried on this particular model, just
Jumping back to the things up.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the word stack. Are we talking like a software engineering stack or just looking at list of
Layer stack. I'm talking about layer stack similar to what you have in Photoshop. Essentially, in Photoshop you have layers, and your document is a layer stack. Here, for every material, you have layers, and every material is a layer stack as far as the painter is concerned. Now, for different materials and different segments of the model, the stacks are completely different. They're completely separate from each other. So that's a good
And every layer you can start.
so not like
That's right.
it's just a list of layers. Okay.
Yeah, essentially it's layers, and the effects are applied more in the document. So one of the things here, since it's called Substance Painter, let me show you the painting. Painting is a very interesting way to add things. So let's say you grab some material. Let's just grab carbon fiber for the sake of it. But it's painting, so it's just like painting in Photoshop or any other digital painting model. You've got brushes and you've got what you paint with. So here.
And what's amazing about this is that the painting is really, really fast
Yeah.
on the 3D models.
Yes, so here's, for example, it's again, me doing engineering art scripting, but this is another thing. I wanted, and this is, again, as we pointed out, it's layers. So we can just go ahead and hide this layer, and then all of our bad experiments are gone, and we can start another. What I want to show in the remaining time is different brushes. One other thing is that what is awesome specifically about 3D, about Painter, is that you can have different brushes. And so this is a regular brush. This like little thing that you see. This is a regular Photoshop circular brush. You can adjust softness, stuff like that. But let's make something more interesting. Let's create cracks. So there's a brush with cracks. That way.
That's cool. Oh, there we go.
Creates cracks. This is a very extreme thing. So I'm going to change
Laser
the
blast that shit.
Yeah. So no, there is a brush called Bullseye. So
I see the bullet hole there.
and this is you can expect if your ship is being attacked by Romuans. But yeah, so basically here you've got like this whole asset of you've got this whole set of tools for you to play with.
Have you got a question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, you see a hand up right here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering if under things from Photoshop
applies for this as well too, like layer masks.
Oh, yeah.
masks.
You can do layer masks, like I don't actually know the software enough to show you how layer masks would be applied here, but it's possible to have two materials in a stack, and then you have layer masks in between them, and so then you can paint layer masks in black and white and mix them
And
together.
the layer mask in Civil Painter is just like in Photoshop. It's a right click, add a mask. And you paint with white and black. It's the same process.
Yeah, so I wish I could show you all of this, but yeah, it's not, yeah, we don't have, one other thing I just wanted to show, and this particular thing, I like it because it just creates unpredictable results all the time, so we'll just have to see what it is. If you have this like little icon, it's called, this painting is actually a simulation, so it runs a little simulation. So let's do the carbon fiber again, and just try painting it, and you see what's going on? You see it flows around, it simulates, I don't even remember which I selected, but this is one of the brushes that's called, a broken glass simulation. And yes, another thing is a fracture simulation, where you basically create these cracks. And depending on the structure of the model, depending on what materials you paint, you sort of never know. And you see there's like a little number in corners, and the simulation is running, and it basically starts running and goes and this is another one is called electrical. So you can do a lot of stuff, and you can immediately create like this a lot, damaged, worn out effects. There's different materials, different material parameters, different filters, and finally these painting tools. So that's all we have time for, and yeah.
Well, and then that's basically a basic workflow in terms of concept creation. Now, if I may,
I do have one question.
yes, go for
Yeah,
it.
When it comes to painting the materials, do you get different results depending on like the number of polygons, or is it like literally using it like painting on a UV map? Or it doesn't really matter? how many
You can
colors?
always in this particular program you can switch. Oh
Oh,
yeah. The question is when the painting happens, does it change the geometry, or are you just changing the textures?
Oh.
Is that the correct?
When you're doing the painting, does the number of polygons that are in the model you're painting change what the different effects are with the different tools in Adobe Painter?
In the Substance Painter, the number of polygons, it will affect the appearance of the model ultimately, and the higher the quality of the mesh, the better the result will be. But usually we are trying to make it, again, there's different shading models, every shading model is different, but the standard model that we are using, we're just trying to show you that what you see is what you get. So you'll get, we're trying to make it appear as it would in a final production. Now, another follow-up to this is whether the painting changes the geometry or not, or it just changes the texture maps. Again, it depends. In some advanced painting modes, it actually can change the geometry.
So I'm being told that we're out of time. I tell you what, we do a 5-week class in Blender and Substance Painter. If you're interested, take a picture of the QR code. Yes.
Yes, we wanted to,
What was that?
Are you from San Diego?
I am from San Diego, right here.
Are you teach here then?
Well, the classes are online. They're through Zoom. The people are coming from all over the world.
and real quickly, what you saw here is a very small variation of how a production works. It kind of starts like you were saying, I'll do the concept art, and basically this shuttle we came up with for Insurrection. We did the movie Insurrection, and then we modified it for the part. And so from the concept art, it goes to a VFX person like Steve, who makes the 3D model. From there, it goes to a VFX guy that does the texturing and puts it in the scenes like what Nikolai does. So this is a very small version of how a Paramount production comes together. And so from little measly sketches to this incredible 3D art is really an amazing process to watch. It used to be in 3D practical miniatures, and now it's in this beautiful computer work. So we saw two extremely talented people take like I said, silly drawing and turn it into magic. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
About how long, when you're in production, how long would this process take on average?
Ooh, John's the man for that.
For a TV
Like,
show,
from
say
start
like
to-
Picard, the concept stage is almost the hardest part, because we have to match architecture from other shows to later shows and tie all this stuff together. And so, but once we get that design done, their work, it's not easy, it's very complicated. But they have the maps and the tools, and what happens is they get to add their own creativity to a lot of things, because they're supervisors, they go, hey, you know, we have this concept art, it's cool, it got a cool stuff, but what if we could modify it, because this looks kind of cool in the art, like what Steve did. He did like an open sweep on the canopy area. In production, we do it as the opposite of that. And so, you know, we're all stepping stones in this creativity, but the VFX takes actually the longest in the actual render. And that, I think, is the biggest time processing thing. We'll plant these beautiful scenes, and they take forever to render themselves.
And it takes literally John's genius, because he's the concept artist. So everybody's got to match his concept. So it takes his ability his genius to create this stuff from the very beginning. And then everybody else in the pipeline has to follow that all the way through once it's all approved. I guess
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
So it's like a big giant team, basically. And so everyone has their own little, like you said, layers. We each have a little bit of layers at the end.
and I think we're done. We gotta
How
step
long
on
are-
stage. But thank you all for being here.